Hey you guys, so what I'm going to introduce you to today is a way for you to answer all open-ended questions in social studies. If you remember in the beginning of the year, I talked about I didn't really care what your answer was. What I more care about is the proof that you use to support your answer, how you can connect it to either yourself, another text that you've read, to the world, and how you can summarize everything. And so what I have here is a concept we call the APE method in writing. It's really like a shortened, easy version of argumentative writing. What I want you to do is right here is the APE method broken out for you. I want you to take a screenshot of this, and then what I want you to do is crop it so you only have the graphic that you see there. But this method is going to be the method that you're going to use throughout the entire year in social studies, and it's the only acceptable way to answer open-ended questions. With that being said, let's get started and show you how simple the APE method really is. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at our question. For this question and for the example that I'm going to use, I'm going to go back to an assignment that you've already done on the Battle of Lexington. You were supposed to answer who fired the first shots at the Battle of Lexington. Most of the responses that I received were things like, the British did, the Patriots did, I don't know. That's not an answer, okay? That's just a random thought. So using this question, I'm going to break out for you the APE method and how an answer really needs to look in this class. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do in the APE method, the A stands for answer. Answer my question. And to answer the question, I'm going to simply restate the question and then give my answer. You can see in blue what I've done. The first shots at the Battle of Lexington were fired by the British, the Redcoats. Do you notice how I restated the question and then I gave my answer? That's really important because now everything is going to funnel from this point on down. All right, now we get into step 2. And the P in the APE method stands from proof. Proof from the text, proof from the video, proof from the magazine, the article that you're reading. Whatever piece it is that you're using, you are going to take your evidence from there. So please notice that in the example above, I still kept the first part of the APE method, the A, so you can see the full thing coming together. The first shots at the Battle of Lexington were fired by the British, the Redcoats. Now I put in my evidence, my proof. In a document sworn to by 34 Minutemen, the Patriots, it said, and you notice I have quotes in here, and I'm taking it directly from the document, word for word. Hearing a drum beat, we proceeded towards the green, and soon found a large body of troops marching toward us. Some of our company was coming to the green, and others had reached it, at which time the company began to disperse. This is my evidence that I'm going to use to prove that the British were the first ones to fire the shots. Keep that in mind. Let's move on to step number 3 in the APE method where I'm going to explain. Now I think one thing that people kind of fall short on is this step 3. It's not enough to just simply give me your evidence, but you have to explain to me how this evidence supports your answer. You can't just simply give it to me and then say I'm done. But again, explaining to me how does that piece of evidence prove what I'm saying? So let's go back and look at what I've done so far. I have in my answer, I have in my proof, now I have to put in my explanation. You will notice that the explanation is in blue because this is a new part of the APE method as I continue my step 3. The first shots at the Battle of Lexington were fired by the British, the Redcoats. In a document sworn to by 34 Minutemen, Patriots, it said, and I'm using quotes now, hearing a drum beat, we proceeded towards the green. And as soon as a large body of troops marching towards us, some of our company was coming to the green and others had reached it, at which time the company began to disperse. Now my explanation. This evidence provides that the Redcoats, actually it should say prove, this evidence proves that the Redcoats fired the first shots because the Patriots' backs were turned and they were walking away. Do you notice how I'm explaining how this evidence proves my answer? My answer is that the Redcoats fired the first shots, the British. And now I'm explaining how that piece of evidence proves that. go on to step 4. Now, step 4 is really important because this is one of our standards, and it's going to be a standard that is going to be in every single one of our units. It's not enough for you guys just to be able to find evidence to prove an answer, but you have to be expected to connect what you're learning to other historical events, to either another historical event happening in the world or even in our city, to another historical event that you read about in another book or a magazine or even in a video, or to an experience that you had yourself. And a lot of you are thinking, well, I've never been a part of any historical event. And that's not true. Look at right now. You guys are part of a very big historical event. You are a part of this election, which is history in its making in many ways. You guys are a part of the historical event because you're around now where we have a lot of anger and frustration with the police and communities fighting against each other. So it doesn't have to be something you're directly related to. It could be something that you're just around for at this point in time. So let's go through and let's look at step 4. Step 4 is when I make a connection, right? Text to text, text to the world, or text to self. Let's go through and see what it is that I've done. I'm putting the whole thing together, right? The first shots at the Battle of Lexington were fired by the British, the Redcoats. In a document sworn to by 34 Minutemen patriots, it said, "Hearing a drumbeat, we proceeded towards the green and soon found a large body of troops marching toward us. Some of our company was coming to the green, and others had reached it, at which time the company began to disperse. This evidence proves that the Redcoats fired the first shots because the Patriots' backs were turned and they were walking away. Now my connection. Notice it in blue right here. This reminds me of a recent Chicago police shooting when LeBon McDonald was shot 16 times by police, and there is confusion as to who fired the first shot, just like at the Battle of Lexington." Do you guys see what I did there? Besides that there were some misspellings and words that were confused due to spell check. But I thought about the Battle of Lexington. I thought about the things that made it relevant and important. And I thought about another historical event that was happening in our time. And I took something right here from our own city, something that we're all aware of. You know, this anger and this frustration towards police and the different stories that we're hearing. One side from the family and people who were around who saw this LeBon McDonald, and then the other side of the story from the police officers. Very important where you see conflicting stories and a confusion as to who fired the first shot and what the real facts were of that day. Now the last step in doing this is to summarize everything that you were just saying, okay? This is what a complete thought looks like. Now you'll notice that it's in red at the bottom is my summary, but let me go through the whole thing and show you and explain to you every single part that I did. The first part is here, I put in my answer, right? The answer to the APE method. I restated my question and gave my answer. The first shots at the Battle of Lexington were fired by the British, the Redcoats. Do you notice how I don't use words like I think or stuff or maybe? But I'm showing that my side. I'm making a statement, something that's fully believed. Now I'm going to put in my proof. Again, I'm taking this directly from the resources that were available to me at that time. In a document sworn to by 34 Minutemen patriots, it said, and then I used my quotes directly from the text, "Hearing a drumbeat, we proceeded towards the green and soon found a large body of troops marching towards us. Some of our company was coming to the green, and others had reached it, at which time the company began to disperse." By the way, if you don't know what the word disperse means, you can always look it up, right? If there's words that you're unfamiliar with, look them up so you can understand it. Disperse means that you are leaving an area. Now I'm putting in my explanation. This evidence proves that the Redcoats fired the first shots because the Patriots' backs were turned and they were walking away. Now I'm going to put in my connection. Again, I'm connecting this historical event to either another historical event happening in the world, to a text that I read, or to an historical event that I was alive for or even participated in. This reminds me of a recent Chicago police shooting when Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times by police, and there was confusion as to who fired the first shot, just like at the Battle of Lexington. Now I'm going to summarize and close. I'm going to start off by using a transition phrase. Notice how I'm saying in closing? This lets the reader know that I'm ending what I'm saying. In closing, my reasons as to who fired the first shots were fired by the British at the Battle of Lexington is because the Patriots, while they were on the battlefield, they were turned away from the British and walking away and weren't able to fire upon the British. This statement was sworn to by 34 Patriots, unlike the British document, which is a testimony of only one officer. And there you go. That's the APE method in full. It's not very long, probably a couple paragraphs. It takes some thought, but if you learn this and you master this, you will always excel in social studies or even in other classes when it comes to writing an argumentative piece or a piece that asks you for your position. This is what it should always look like. This is my expectation for this class. Practice it, learn it, use it. Good luck.